This video is sponsored by Sync. Get unlimited storage for your MacBook. So I don't know why I did it, but I traded in my 2021 14-inch MacBook Pro for a 15-inch MacBook Air. And I got a lot of thoughts on that transition. I want to talk about the 15-inch MacBook Air, what I missed from the MacBook Pro, and ultimately if the 15-inch is right for you. It's got a lot to talk about. The 15-inch MacBook Air is rumored for a really long time. I had it in my head, but it got announced. I was gonna make the switch because it's gonna be for a video. I was gonna try it and give my experience on it and opinions because it's the privilege of what I get to do. Then actually push came to shove to push that order button. I was staring at my MacBook Pro, which was been absolutely perfect for me for the better part of 2 years. No issues, did everything I needed, went with me all over the world, and just been an incredible workhorse of a computer. I got a bit of cold feet. Ultimately though, I pushed the button and ordered me a pretty nice looking midnight 15-inch MacBook Air with 16 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage. On a side note, the fact that they call the blue midnight, I got a hard time wrapping my head around. I've never been like, oh, look how blue it is out at midnight. I wish they would just give us an actual black computer. The old black plastic MacBook, I wanted that thing so badly. I wish Apple would give us some version of that. All that aside, it came, opened it up, and again, I was shocked by how thin and light this computer is. And if you want to like too long, don't want to watch, it's a 13-inch MacBook Air, just bigger. So a couple things I figured I was gonna notice right away. The thinness and the lightness. And this thing is really incredibly thin for what it is. Apple will claim it's the thinnest computer out there. I think it definitely is. It's not the lightest. That title goes to one of the insane LG grams. Put those two things together, you got a computer that almost feels like the battery is not in it. That has been absolutely awesome to have. I take the computer with me pretty much everywhere I go. I don't use it docked ever. I always have it kind of open, working wherever I happen to be. So having that ability to have thin and lightness has been awesome. The thing I expected to notice the most was the screen. So obviously it's bigger, so that's nice. My eyesight's not the greatest, but things are generally larger. Can't necessarily get more content on there, but just having a bigger screen I think is always kind of nice to have. I'm a screen snob. I've talked about it for a long time, especially when it comes to phones. I expected to be very disappointed with the lower brightness versus the MacBook Air and the lack of high resolution display ProMotion on the MacBook Air. Honestly, I did not notice it at all. I didn't miss the extra brightness. I turned the brightness all the way up, and that's how I use the computer. And I also surprisingly did not notice ProMotion being gone at all. I was very surprised with that. If you are concerned about that, try a MacBook Air. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. There is one caveat there though. I went to erase my MacBook Pro. Hadn't used it in 2 weeks since I got the MacBook Air, and I was resetting everything. I opened it up, and then I was very aware how beautiful that screen was versus the MacBook Air. So if you don't have both of them side by side, you won't notice it. If you do have them side by side, you'll definitely be aware that the MacBook Air got the worst of those screens. Also, I was expecting to not like the keyboard as much. I noticed no difference with the keyboard on the Air versus the keyboard on the MacBook Pro. I did kept hitting the caps locks though every time I went to type A, nonstop. So I had to turn caps locks off. That might be unique to just me, but something to keep in mind. You can do that if you want. You can turn the caps lock key to do anything that you want it to do. Like I said, I went for 1 terabyte of storage on the MacBook Air, and for a lot of things that might be enough space, but as a content creator, that can fill up really fast. Most video projects that we do are 300 gigs. So if I have nothing else on my computer, I can maybe get 3 projects on here. That's not sustainable. It's not gonna work for creatives. If you want to sort of supercharge your Mac experience, Sync.com is probably the most ideal way to do it. You have an incredibly powerful portable computer, and now you're kind of giving that more power and more ability. So with Sync.com, especially for the business side, you can get unlimited storage space for $15 per user. I'm not talking like fake unlimited, I mean real unlimited. We have terabytes and terabytes of data. We can always have that now backed up and synced with Sync.com. It is probably the most perfect tool for creative collaboration. Also, if you're someone that's using maybe iCloud Drive, but someone else is on a PC, you switch to a PC, that's a problem. Sync.com takes care of all of that. you decide to use sync.com, you can access all of your files from your Mac, from your PC, and they'll all sync together. And if you're on your MacBook Air, they'll all show up in your Finder as well, so don't take up any extra space. It is incredibly seamless and easy. You can install the app on your Windows computer, your Mac computer, your phone, iOS, or Android, and everything will be there. You also have the option to sync your iPhone photos from your camera roll directly to your Mac without eating up all of that storage too. So if you want to learn more about sync.com, we got a link down below, but there is a super secret special discount if you go to sync.com/John. They'll hook you up over there. So battery life has been insane. I'm on this computer 7-8 hours a day, and I can go about 2.5 days with my usage on this, which is absolutely incredible. Now, I would never do that. I'm usually sitting at a desk and I can just plug it in. But if you are traveling, this thing is a battery life king. My MacBook Pro was definitely no battery slouch, but this thing blows it away. I almost want to say I can get about 50% more usage on the MacBook Air versus the MacBook Pro. I don't want to make this like a versus, but battery life on the Air has been absolutely outstanding. I am finding myself wishing I had a USB Type-C port on the right side of the machine. I'm kind of really missing that, but I can adapt to that, get used to it. I think having 2 plus MagSafe is a pretty good compromise versus before we just had one USB Type-C port, which was not nearly enough for absolutely anything. Other than that though, it is a MacBook Air through and through. I really did wish it was gonna have a new processor. If you have a 13-inch MacBook Air, I would definitely not make the upgrade here at all, unless you have to have the extra screen real estate, but they're the exact same computers aside from the screen. So another like a small upgrade Apple talked about was the improved speakers here. They sound great. The bass sounds bassy, the mid sound mid. It doesn't sound as too tinny as you get from a lot of laptop speakers, but I would still use a pair of headphones with these. But they sound better than the 13-inch, but not as good as the speakers on the MacBook Pros. So kind of like any way you look at it here, the 15-inch MacBook Air is a really good computer. If you're in the market for one and waiting to pull the trigger, do it. You'll absolutely be happy. Something to be said though about which computer from Apple I think you should buy. And that's a real big one because of cost, right? So the base 15-inch MacBook Air is about $1,300, which I think is a lot better than a lot of us were expecting, but still really expensive, especially when you consider some of the Windows alternatives out there. So, but that's just for the base M2 with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. Probably not the one a lot of people will be getting. Once you start upgrading RAM and storage, you quickly approach the price of the 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M2 Pro chip, which is noticeably more powerful, has a really great XDR screen, more ports, and better speakers. It's a pro machine through and through. So I think like the big question that I had was, are these computers for different people? I've got a 16 gigabyte version, terabyte, versus sort of the lower end of the MacBook Pro. I think for a lot of people, one computer can do everything for them. I think the use case for those Pro models is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. If you're a creator doing a lot of editing, you want that extra export time, I get it. Connecting a lot of external monitors, I understand why you'd want a Pro. Doing 3D rendering, I get why you'd want a Pro. If you're doing a huge amount of coding and you need sort of the time for processing, I get it, get the Pro. If you're not in kind of those use cases, I think the differences here, people are not gonna notice at all. What they will notice is a thinner, lighter package with better battery life. And again, I'm gonna reiterate that I think the MacBook Air is probably the perfect computer for pretty much everybody.